This is a video about meiosis. Today you will watch this video as it goes through every stage of meiosis, and you will draw the chromosomes and record any important information on these sheets. Here's the first paper. Here's the second paper. Here's the third paper that you'll be recording your notes on. Meiosis is the process that cells in a female's ovaries and cells in a male's testicles goes through in order to create a female egg cell or a male sperm cell. During meiosis, these cells are doing whatever they do in the ovaries or the testes, and then it's time to make either egg cells or sperm cells. So at the very end of interphase, the chromosomes inside the cells in the ovaries and in the testes duplicate. In this particular example, we are talking about a cell that has 4 chromosomes. In humans, human cells have 46 chromosomes, which makes up its entire DNA. But for this example, we are only going to show 4 chromosomes. So at the end of interphase, the chromosomes duplicate, which signifies the beginning of prophase 1 in meiosis 1. During prophase 1, the chromosomes will shorten and thicken and turn in the shape of an X, as well as the nuclear membrane will disappear. You'll notice that there's a red chromosome and its copy and a pink chromosome and its copy. This is the DNA that this individual got from its mother. Then you've got the blue chromosome and its copy and the green chromosome and its copy. That's the half of the DNA that came from this individual's father. So if this were your cell, if you were a female, if this were your cell inside your ovary, or if you were a male, if this were the cell inside of your testicles, these 2 chromosomes and a copy came from your mother. These 2 chromosomes and the copy came from your father to make up all of your DNA. Also during prophase, the centrioles will move to the opposite sides of the cell. Once the nuclear membrane has completely disappeared, that signifies the beginning of metaphase 1 during meiosis. During metaphase 1, the chromosomes will line up in the center of the cell. The way they line up in the center of the cell is rather unique. What will happen is the chromosome that came from your mother and its copy will pair up with the matching chromosome that came from your father and its copy. You'll notice these little black marks on the tips of these chromosomes. Those indicate a gene. If this gene here was the gene to roll your tongue that came from your mother, this is the matching gene for being able to roll your tongue that came from your father. That's why these are considered a pair. And then this is also considered a pair. This particular chromosome and its copy came from your father. This particular chromosome and its copy came from your mother. So at the end of metaphase 1, the pairs of chromosomes line up in the center of the cell. During anaphase 1, the pairs will move apart. And that's what you've seen here. This chromosome with its copy and this chromosome with its copy, that's considered a pair, have moved apart to opposite sides of the cells. Likewise, these have moved apart to opposite sides of the cell. The next phase in meiosis 1 is telophase 1. During telophase 1, 2 new cells are created. And here's what those 2 new cells look like. Here's the first cell that has 2 chromosomes and their copies, and 2 chromosomes and their copies. And this signifies the end of meiosis 1. The next phase will be prophase 2, which is the start of meiosis 2. Now, this is the beginning of meiosis 2, and this is prophase 2. It looks very similar to telophase 2. The chromosomes are still in the shape of an X, and the centrioles have to move again to the sides of the cell. So by metaphase 2, the centrioles have moved to the sides of the cell, grown spindle fibers again, and attached to the chromosomes and lined up each chromosome in a line in the center of the cell. That's the end of metaphase 2 during meiosis 2. Then, during anaphase 2, the chromosomes pull apart to the opposite sides of the cell, as shown here. That is the end of anaphase 2 during meiosis 2. Then we enter telophase 2. If you are a male, you form 4 sperm cells. If you are a female, you will form 1 egg cell and 3 polar bodies. You will notice that each of the 4 sperm cells that are created if you are male have 2 chromosomes inside the nucleus of the head of the sperm cell. That's because half of your DNA has been given to each one of these cells, so that if this sperm cell fertilizes an egg, this half of the DNA would pair up with this half of the DNA if you were a female. If you're a female, only you create 4 things as well, but only one of them will turn into an egg cell because each month you only release 1 egg from your ovary that travels down your fallopian tube. The other 3 are called polar bodies. These polar bodies will disintegrate inside your ovary and dissolve and just be reabsorbed into your body. The next month when you're a female, this whole meiosis process will happen again, and you'll create another egg cell, which will then be available to go down the fallopian tube for potential fertilization. So, the process of meiosis, we started out with 4 chromosomes inside the nucleus of the cell in an ovary or the nucleus in a cell in the testicles. By the end of meiosis, we end up with 4 new cells if you were a male, each with only 2 chromosomes or half the number. If you were a male, a human male, we would end up with 23 chromosomes inside each of these cells because a human cell has 46 chromosomes. If you're a female, at the end of meiosis, you end up with 4 cells. However, only 1 turns into an egg cell. The other 3 will disintegrate and be reabsorbed into your body. But notice that you have half the number of chromosomes from what we started. We started with 4 in this example. We ended up with 2 chromosomes. If you were a human female, we would have started with 46 chromosomes, and at the end you would have ended up with an egg cell that had 23 chromosomes. It's because when an egg cell and a sperm cell unite, creates the total amount of chromosomes necessary to make that organism. In this example, if these 2, the sperm cell and this egg cell, were to unite, it would create 4 total chromosomes. Please make sure you've paused and you've recorded the chromosomes as you needed throughout each of the phases of meiosis on your notes. Also, you might want to jot down some information that I shared on the video as I was going through each of the steps about the chromosomes, the spindle fibers, the centrioles, through each of the phases.